We put the spotlight on the big talking point this Saturday evening, the air pollution emergency in the national capital. Actually, it's an emergency across most of North India, the biggest of the cities in Uttar Pradesh, even in Punjab and Haryana. But we begin with the national capital tonight because that is the case that was picked up by the Supreme Court. While hearing a plea, the Supreme Court today has had some very, very tough questions and very, very tough observations to make about the way our governments have been dealing with this situation. In fact, during this hearing, the court said that even inside our house, people are being forced to wear masks. That is how bad the air quality is in the national capital. They spoke about how it is time to take emergency measures. They asked the government representatives, lawyers representing the Delhi government and the centre to say, tell us how quickly we can reduce the AQI, which is the air quality index, which is a reflection of the quality of the air in the city. How can we quickly reduce it by 200 points? They even went on to say, think of methods like maybe a 2-day lockdown. At a point, the CJI told the central government, please look beyond politics. When questions were being asked, one of the first arguments presented by the centre was about the stubble burning that's going on in the state of Punjab and how that is a big contributor, that the farmers are still at a large scale continuing to burn the stubble in Punjab, and that is what is impacting Delhi's air. The Supreme Court said, well, a large percentage of the pollution doesn't come from stubble fire. And they also didn't take it very lightly that immediately the first response from the government was to blame the farmers. Rather than talking about what steps state governments and central government have actually taken to incentivize the farmers to reduce stubble burning, to not burn their stubble, but actually find alternative ways of getting rid of it. And there was an exhaustive conversation about that. But they also asked, what about the steps to control vehicular pollution? They also indicated that the situation is so dire right now in the coming few days that the government must look at drastic steps, maybe something like a lockdown. And so, after this wrap, the Delhi government quickly went into a huddle. Centre is yet to come out with any kind of steps or announcements or action, but the Delhi government has. And the Delhi government has decided that there will be no physical classes in the schools of Delhi for a week. Students will have to go back to virtual classrooms for at least a week until the air quality gets better. And there will be no construction for at least 5 days from November 14th to November 17th. Absolute stop on construction activity in Delhi. The Delhi government employees, and that's what they can decide for, will go into a work from home schedule. Everybody will be on a work from home schedule in the government departments. They've even advised the private sector to look at a similar work-from-home schedule for at least a few days. And Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that they are working on a proposal which they will submit to the Supreme Court on if there is a requirement of lockdown. How will that lockdown really function? Do they have to look at industries? Do they have to look at movement of people? What is it that will get impacted? Which is why I say this is the state of affairs. It's an emergency, a health emergency in Delhi as we speak. Every doctor that we have spoken to has spoken about how their hospitals, their clinics, their mobiles are flooded with visits and calls from patients. One or the other kind of breathing problem, cough problem that people in Delhi are witnessing right now. Experts are all advising that this is not a good time to step out at all. In fact, they will tell you that the air that you're breathing in Delhi and at similar AQI levels in many parts of Uttar Pradesh as well is akin to smoking 16 to 20 cigarettes in a day. Will these emergency steps help? What else can be done in the immediate future such that people in Delhi are able to breathe and don't choke? Dr. Prashant Chhajed, Director for Pulmonology at Fortis Hiranandani Hospital, joins me this evening. Karthik Ganesan, Research Fellow at CEEW. Dr. Gufran Beig, Founder, Project Director for SAFAR and Project Director at IITM. joining me this evening, and also Atul Goyal, President of Urja, the Residents Association, on what part can Delhiites actually play in this. We'll talk about that as well. But first up, I want to go across to Dr. Gufran Beig, because Dr. Beig, it seems that the situation actually could also become worse from here on, basis the weather and wind predictions, if the stubble burning actually continues in neighboring areas.
Yes, true. Because, the point is that major trigger where it has happened is that this year the monsoon withdrawal was delayed. And what has happened that everything is shifted by about 10 days or so. And as you enter in a winter, more cooler, there is a more stagnation condition. So now what is happening is that by this time, the fire counts would have been reduced, which has reduced last time, but still it is ranging between 3,000 to 5,000. And now we have already entered in a much cooler zone, and that is why the stagnation conditions are there. So this is the major issue which is happening. But the point here is one more thing which is very interestingly, which is happening, not interestingly, but very surprisingly is that this particular episode has become really prolonged, because normally northwesterly winds do not stay such a longer time with the same speed and same direction, number one. And number two, there are something which is happening that even not only PM 2.5, but PM 10 is also increasing.
Very quickly, how would you interpret this and explain it to a common man to say PM 10 value has also increased significantly?
Right. You see, the scientifically, the mitigation activities are something which is what it should be. Because what happens that there is a continuous flow of stubble-related pollution from that, which is rare. Otherwise, what happens after 3-4 days, the wind direction changes or something. During that period, what happens that if there is a moisture in the air, then air become heavier, and then these smaller particles grow in size and they become PM10. So now, for my understanding, as we are looking into this, the sprinkling of water at this stage of time is really not good, because dust already during dust phenomena is mainly summer phenomena. And when the temperature becomes high, winds are so calm, dust is not a really major pollutant. It is like an insignificant factor in this one. So what happens that if there is a lot of water, then the humidity increases, and although the humidity during this time remains about 70% or so, but it goes to 90%. And that is one of the reasons which we are thinking is this surprise increase in PM10 also, bigger particles also, in addition to PM 2.5.
Okay. Very concerning fact that you've also highlighted here, which I think even the authorities will have to keep in mind when they implement, the rapid action plan from here on. Dr. Prashant Chhajed, thank you for joining us. The biggest question, of course, is what is it that the people of Delhi can do right now to sort of protect themselves as much as they can?
So I think there are two ways you have to look at it, two types of individuals. One group of individuals are those who are healthy. Okay, those who are healthy need to go to work, like you and me have to go to work. I think we need to walk out with a N95 or an N99 mask and take absolute care. The second group of individuals are those who have an underlying lung problem. That could be a COPD, asthma, interstitial lung disease. I mean, these type of individuals, for all practical purposes, need to stay indoors and, should travel out only if they are forced to travel out. I think this is what the recommendation would be. And here, the use of N95 and N99 mask is very important. Now, for those who are already having underlying lung diseases such as COPD, asthma, or interstitial lung disease, they need to continue to take their medications as required. Now, what to do? They need to keep the windows closed. And in case they have to go out for a walk, you have to go out for a walk when the sun is up and about in the afternoon, when the temperature is slightly on the higher side, and when the smog has actually lifted. Because as the temperature rises, the smog will actually rise up. I mean, those are the times when if somebody's forced, then they should step out. The other thing is the windows need to be closed at all times. And also indoor air purifiers may be used, particularly we don't have any strong evidence that these indoor air purifiers help. But yes, there is some sort of an acceptance that they could help, and particularly should be used in areas of high pollution, and particularly if there are individuals who've got chronic lung diseases, and though air purifiers can also come to some rescue.
Yeah, you know, so effectively what a lot of the things that we did in the first round of pandemic, people of Delhi will have to go back to that. And unfortunately, it won't be the first time. It's now becoming an annual affair, at least in Delhi. There is a time period when, you know, schools have to shut down. People are advised to not go out for exercise. Or if they step out, they wear a mask, and they do. And that's the situation we're looking at right now as well.
So what we are doing is a knee-jerk reaction. You know, yeah. I mean, every year it happens, and every year we come on this panel, and every year we discuss this. I think we really need to take some long-term steps to avoid these type of situations. It's not only about Delhi, but all across India. I think we really need to take certain strong steps and measures. And it's right now only the stubble burning is a part of the contribution or the dominant issue which is causing the increased pollution. But I think industrial pollution, vehicular pollution, I think we really need to think about these aspects very seriously.
You know, you're absolutely right. And let me, in fact, at that point, also bring in Atul Goyal, President of Urja. Mr. Goyal, because one aspect, of course, is how to protect your own health, the steps that the doctor just told us. But, you know, the Residents Association, we understand, are also now, like yours, have decided to do their own bit. Now, what is it that you're asking residents of Delhi to look at?
We are basically looking forward to the citizens as well as the community leaders that they shall take suo motu actions in their local areas and protect themselves, protect the environment over there, report whatever anomalies are happening around, whether it is related with the dust or burning of the garbage or by the roadside or utilization of masks. And we have issued an advisory to that effect, which have around 20 points over there for the residents and the individuals to take care. And the failure, regular failure year after year of to control this pollution, which comes with a knee-jerk solutions every time we face. Everyone is fully aware that it is coming either by parali or by other local means, but we fail to address this and we don't have any long-term solutions. We don't have any long-term planning and blueprints, and we work only on the short-term gains. So we feel that a bottoms-up approach by the citizens has to come forward, and otherwise it won't be possible to control this the pollution that happening around.
Yes. So, for example, you know, citizens can also help in identifying and reporting of road stretches with high dust generation. If in your area, again, if there are stretches where construction activity is going on at a time when it shouldn't, please, you should raise the alert. The Delhi government has come up with an app as well to track the situation and raise complaints. Use that app. That's what you can do at your own end.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it was before Diwali, I would have also said, don't burst firecrackers. That part is gone. But if there are more festivals coming up where you intend to, please don't. It's going to harm your own health as well. Let me also, at this point of time, bring in Karthik Ganesan. Karthik, much debate also happened in the court today about the key reasons. Now, while for Delhi, people of Delhi, the government of Delhi, the stubble burning may not be in their hands. What is it that they can look at?
So, you know, we have this decision support system, you know, that, you know, IITM has put together. And what should have ideally happened is that we should have taken advice from the decision support system 2-3 days in advance, because that's exactly the intelligence that it gives us. And I think even 2-3 days in advance, we had a sense that things were going to go down south. But I think, unfortunately, the message we took was there was going to be a temporary dip after the 4th or the 5th, you know, and that, you know, I think everybody just sort of let their guard down. And now we are sort of left to think what exactly is causing it. While, you know, the sources of pollution can be debated, there is no real-time sort of apportionment that's happening that's really pointing fingers at any one particular source. Most of the information that's currently available is, of course, modeled, which is, you know, a reasonably good estimate of what is there. And clearly, you know, it points to the fact that there are these sources, right, which is transport, which is there within Delhi, you know, the largest number of cars among all the metros, possibly, you know, some of many of the metros put together, and the uninhibited use of that. And you look at the petrol and diesel sales across the country, right, despite the high prices, you know, that's soaring. So I think controlling traffic and the use of private vehicles is definitely will lead to a significant improvement throughout the year. But the problem is, that we don't have the will or the ability to sort of really target who we can sort of really penalize. There are technical solutions available. For instance, every vehicle that is registered in Delhi possibly today has a Bharat tag, right? Why can't we put together gantries that start really, identifying vehicles based on, their vintage, the type of fuel that they use, and then start pricing the road usage so that, people really get onto the roads only when they actually need it. This carte blanche ban saying, you can't use your vehicles on these days is a much tougher, implementation problem, because ultimately some people will definitely need it and are willing to pay the price for it. So let's extract the resource that's needed and then use it to actually put together solutions that will help us address the other sources of pollution.
Right. And of course, there is much that all of you will be able to contribute in terms of what should be the long-term solutions. The unfortunate part is that at least for many years now, every year, from the Green Tribunal to the Delhi High Court to the Supreme Court, have intervened, have asked tough questions, have given orders, have even threatened to take action against the government officials, the chief secretaries, if these orders are not implemented. The situation on ground doesn't change. Karthik, it's boiled down to now a question that the Supreme Court, in a sense, put out there. Should we look at a 2-day, 3-day lockdown to immediately bring down the AQI?
Yeah, the question of the lockdown again is come too late in the picture, primarily because we're really in that that vicious spiral where we're not necessarily sure if to what extent some of these actions within Delhi will actually help improve the air quality. Because if the meteorology really sort of is going to become worse as the temperatures are dipping and the the atmospheric mixing height really comes down, right? The improvements may not necessarily show up, and then the accusation will be that see, you locked down, and despite that, no impact came. Right. So when we talk about a graded response plan, it has to be graded. It can't be all of a sudden shut down every activity and make it difficult for everybody to pursue their livelihood opportunities. So ultimately, if we feel that there are avenues that we have to pursue, ensure that the safety nets for those who are going to be impacted is in place. If you don't have that, then ultimately, and if the gains in air quality don't happen, then you'll have some serious backlash saying that this was definitely not needed. It did not give us any benefits.
Yeah, but we have a GRAP plan which kicks into after the AQI reaches a certain level. I think what we need to also factor in is if there is forecast of what is going to happen, we act much sooner than being in this situation.
48 hours worth of people to be exposed and then say, oh, we are in a terrible situation.
And then think of a plan and implement it too late. That completely out of time. Big thank you to all of the panelists for joining us on this conversation. The people of Delhi need to brace in for some tough days. Not just Delhi. It often gets the headline and becomes the highlight. And today the focus of the Supreme Court, because there was a plea in the top court. But the situation is not any different in many other North India cities today. And I think citizens across these cities will have to brace themselves for some tough times to come. Let's see if the Delhi government actually submits a proposal for a lockdown and the Supreme Court takes a view on it. We have to wait and watch. But for now, the air quality is predicted to only worsen. It is a national air pollution emergency in the national capital tonight. Thank you for joining us.